welcome to The Financial Operator. I am your host, Jen Pfizer. I am the owner of MKB CFO and Bookkeeping and the host of this show. So I am here today with Dennis DM Meador, and I'm excited for this conversation. And as always, first of all, thank you for being here. But Dennis, DM, I'm going to probably switch to DM at this point now that you've introduced me that way.
No worries.
But tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am a lifelong entrepreneur. I kind of had my first entrepreneurial thing at about 14 years old. My first real kind of business that took off in my early 20s. I have been in marketing since my late teens, early 20s. 18 is when I 19 started in marketing. I have been in the digital and kind of like legal / professional marketing realm since 2003 is kind of when I went all in on that. I have, I've had 3 companies that I've taken from less than $1 million or 0 to 3 to 5 million in 1 to 3 years. Just a lot of life. Like, when someone says, "Who are you?" It's like, which chapter do you want, my friend? A little bit of an interesting background with, just the way I was raised. But I'll just leave it at this. Although I am a marketer and I work with lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, never have been. I actually went to a unaccredited Bible Institute for 2 years. And that is the extent of my further education. However, I had a parallel career for almost 20 years where I was a pastor, missionary, evangelist, where I kind of cultivated just a learning lifestyle, which has allowed me, and I've also always had my own business, which has allowed me to, although I might not have the degrees on the wall, I definitely have the decades in the trenches of doing it. And so I take that as a privilege to be able to serve the people I serve and what I do. Started what I'm doing roughly about 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years on May 1st, and started with an idea that sprung from conversations with attorneys who said to me, "Do you do anything with podcasts?" Launched it with a VA that I've had for 5 years, another guy I've worked with for 5 years. He did some piecemeal work. Now here we are, almost 2 years later. We have about 225 companies we serve and do all of their podcast marketing. Like, it's a whole holistic ecosystem that we do. About 65 people on the team. So wow. It's kind of been a rocket. And I know where I want to go. So I'm not as excited about where I am as much as I am about where I plan on being.
Okay. So I have so many questions for you from that little intro. But so first of all, if anybody is not watching and they are listening to this, so you have behind you the legalpodcastnetwork.com. I assume that is the business that you are running right now and helping.
Correct.
Pick up on things really quickly.
Yeah. Subtle marketing.
Exactly.
They call that subliminal advertising.
But so I'm gathering you help attorneys that are wanting to have their own podcast and doing
yes.
all of that. Okay.
So what we do is I wanted to create a podcasting system that allowed professionals to kind of take what was happening in their offices from behind their desks to people and kind of take it on a mass scale. Now, we have the Legal Podcast Network, is just what we started with. We've recently launched the Authority Podcast Network, and that's because I have 10 clients who are nothing to do with legal. And they're just like, I don't care, it's supposed to be for lawyers. I want what you're doing. So we're kind of branching out, coaches, consultants, professionals, medical, whatever, just anybody who wants to establish authority. So I'm not quite just in that box anymore. But yeah, and what we do is we take and we structure a podcast where we call it authority podcasting. So the attorney comes to us, they say, this is, my ideal client. I'm in Atlanta. I do divorces. My ideal client is like high net worth people. Typically I work with the women, and, help make sure that they get the, alimony that they deserve or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so then what we do is we have a content team who structures questions based on our clients' ideal client profiles. And then we provide a producer and a host. And so our clients sit down, they're on the John Johnson Law Firm show. That's not the name of it typically, but I'm just giving a thing. And so then we have what we call a co-host. These co-hosts are people who have been interviewing for sometimes a decade or more. They have their own podcast. They have their own shows, things like that, very well versed in kind of interviewing people. So they get on with our clients. They ask them about 7 to 10 questions that are very specific. So today we're going to talk about if you're going through a divorce and you want the lake house, how do you make sure that you get that second home in the divorce? And so they'll talk about like, oh, well, in the state of blah, 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 if they don't occupy at this percent, but you do this, and it's just kind of like help assuage fears and like give clarity to people during like times of really anything. We've got, over 200 firms. So you can imagine it's not all divorce or criminal. There's lots of different people that we serve. So we take that podcast, and that is now the basis for an ecosystem of marketing that we do with our attorneys. So we make that look good and sound good, edit, skins, transitions, blah, blah, blah. We post it on about 25 different networks, audio and video. We then, for every podcast we do, we create 30 pieces of content, 10 videos or reels, 10 audiograms, and then 10 static posts. Hey, this subject, this episode number 7, go check it out on iTunes or whatever, on Apple Podcast. We then post all that content for our clients, typically on up to 10 outlets every single day. You can do 1, 2, or 4 shows a month, which would give you 1, 2, or 3 pieces of content every day. We then take the content or the transcript and turn it into site content. We're also in the process, we have 10 of our clients in beta where we're doing guest matching, where you're you could be on other guest show, you could be a guest on shows, or you have your show and you want certain types of guests. So we're matching them up because we now have a big network of people we work with. And we just are in the process of launching 2 dedicated streaming TV networks that are downloadable through Amazon Fire, Roku, LG, blah, blah, blah. One is for attorneys called LPN Law Life, where because we have about 15 shows from people who serve attorneys. CFOs like you, CMOs like you. One lady, Estelle Winsett, does like how to dress for success as a lawyer woman. We have mental health, holistic wellness. Like basically we're just like, if you're a lawyer, we want to become your life channel. And then if you need a lawyer or you need legal education on very niche content, we want to help you find somebody local to you that's going to answer questions, assuage fears, and really build that relationship, that pseudo relationship that's built through podcasting, that's built through social media, that's built through digital sources. We're helping create those relationships. So now instead of marketing that emanates from me outward, I'm now using authoritative positioning that starts from my client and brings them to me. And I love to give this illustration if I could. Am I taking too long on this answer?
No, go for it.
Let me give you just the most beautiful illustration in the world happened to me just last week. And I wish I did plan this, but this is how it happened. So my wife and I live on an island in Belize. Ambergris Key is the name of the island. San Pedro is what most people know it as. Colloquially, it's the Madonna song, Last Night I Dreamed of San Pedro, Isla Bonita. So, but that's debatable. Long story short, we're moving to Merida, Mexico, which is at the north of the Yucatan, just about 30 minutes below the Gulf of Mexico, America, whatever you call it, and about 3 hours inland from Cancun. Last week, we're sitting down, we're interviewing 2 doctors, and I was like, okay, babe, if this is who it makes sense for you. So we sit down with the one doctor, and he asks questions, and she just knows all the answers. Boom, I answer this. And he's like, wow, you're really, and she's like, oh, I do my research. We come to the end, and the doctor says, do either of you have any more questions? This is what my wife said. And like, I wish I could have paid her to do this because it was just too perfect for my life. She said, no, I've been following you on Instagram for 2 years now. You were already my doctor. I just wanted to come and meet you. That's what we're trying to create because that is how people are shopping and buying now. They're not at the last second going, let me go find a life-changing lawyer by typing in, lawyer near me. They're going, who do I need? I have questions about this. Let me understand that. People are making more informed decisions. Instead of going to the internet at the last minute, they go to the internet right away. And with the way the algorithms are designed, if you can create content that is answering questions, assuaging fears, and getting people to engage with, they don't have to like it. They don't have to share it. They don't have to comment. If they just click on that thing and it's a 47-second video and they watch 38 seconds of it on average, it's going to show up in a ton of things. You might have 5 followers and get 50,000 people to watch a video because of the way the algorithms work. So we're just taking, and very simply, who professionals are offline, reflecting that online, and helping them cultivate relationships through that at scale and compounding trust.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I find this very interesting because I think a lot of business owners, we are busy people, right? Like we are busy people. Mm-hmm. The last thing we want to do is content. So what you're kind of doing is condensing that into 1 to 4 episodes per month is essentially all they need to be doing for content. It sounds like, right? Like you're creating a lot of content from that. And then that is basically living on the internet for people to find them. But it's forever, really. Mm-hmm. Like you can go back.
Evergreen.
Exactly. And so this is something that like a little bit of effort creates a massive wave at point. Like it's just going to keep going and going. But it is something that I myself struggle with it. And I hate, even though I have a podcast, like the thought of I am not a content creator. I don't like doing it. I don't like thinking about it. I don't like telling me that I need to go do it. So creating like simple ways that people can accomplish this for their business is important. So have you always been a marketer? Has that always been?
Yeah, I started at 18. Okay. The way I got into marketing was I was going to college. Mm-hmm. I got married at 19, so I needed to make more money. I had a little desk job and a little side hustle type thing. I always kind of had that. But now I'm married, I'm 19, and I'm like, I got to make more money. I got to have an apartment. I got to have a real life, right? Mm-hmm. So my buddy was working at a telemarketing firm. And he said, hey, like they start at $10 an hour and you're making $5.25. I know I'm dating myself. So, come on over, like try it. So I was like, oh man. So I get over there, do pretty well. They actually moved me into script writing. Now I'm like 18, or I guess I'm 19. I'm making like $20-25 an hour. I can set my own hours. But there's like this group of like 10 guys and they're all making like $30 to $50 an hour. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are those guys doing? And they're like, oh, they're selling ads in magazines. And I was like, well, I want to do that. So I go over and do that. I do well. They actually make me a manager. I'm managing guys my age now. And I ended up getting recruited into selling and putting together hospital patient handbooks. And it just kind of like, I was intrigued by marketing and advertising. Like I remember I'm driving down the road and I see a McDonald's billboard and someone's sitting next to me and the person's, in my mind, I say, we're not going to get 30 seconds down the road. They're going to say they want McDonald's. Sure enough, we got 30 seconds down. They're like, McDonald's sounds good. And I was just like, and there was just something about marketing and advertising that intrigued me. So I just started getting into it, reading a book here, a book there. I sold it well. I understood the concepts. And then I got invited in my early 20s to create my own business. That took off. So yeah, I've been in marketing my entire career. I started digital only in 2003, and that was with attorneys. So that's where, now we're hitting 23 years of working, not exclusively, but I'd say like 75-ish% of my career from 2003 and digital has been in the legal industry, other white collar professionals as well. I've worked with blue collar, but the primary people that I've worked with are more of the knowledge workers. Mm-hmm. I've just always, it's been a good temperament fit and like good conversations. So yeah, I'm a marketer who's never been to marketing school, don't read a lot of marketing books. I just live marketing. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to me. Mm-hmm.
So when present day, did you get into the podcast network. That particular business, because it evolved, you saw kind of over time things changing, or did you just one day have an idea and you're like, nope, we need to do this. This needs to be my new business?
Kind of a combination of the two. So I was a partner in an SEO firm for lawyers, and we were using like audio recordings every once in a while, a couple times a year, to build out their content. And during like I think once or twice a year, we would have like a special where we would give them an extra thing if they would join, sort of like this special bonus. And I don't really do things that way with my company, but the partner I had at the time did. And one time we took their recording that we turned into their content and a book, and we made an audio book out of it, and then we turned that into a podcast. And that podcast was a mover. And then I told him, I was like, dude, like they love this podcast thing. He's like, blah, 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 blah. And, he didn't really think that it was scalable or whatever. So I like kind of sat down and I drew out how I would do it, because I know like with attorneys, like you can't take a lot of their time. You can't give them homework. Like, really most busy professionals, like I always tell my team, better, faster, less friction. And then when they're working with clients, I'm like, do not give them homework, because entrepreneurs like me, I always tell people, like I graduated high school, magna cum barely, 2.43 GPA, 1,012 out of 1,543, not because I didn't get it. It's because I wanted to get out of there. And I just, I needed that piece of paper so that I wouldn't on paper be a failure. But like, I knew I started making money when I was 14 years old. So like, to me, it was just kind of a thing I had to do. And I think a lot of entrepreneurial minded people are that way. They don't want more to do. They want less to do. So I kind of created this like system. So how could I stack? Are you familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V? Mm-hmm. Okay. Most people are, especially in marketing. But, and I remember like years ago, he was just like, he would just he just has people with cameras following him around, and he has for like 10 years. But he's like, you take a video and you take that video and you make a shorter video out of it. And then you put it on Facebook, and then you put it on Instagram. And then and I just remember thinking about like, you could just take something and then just like move it around and repurpose it. So that had kind of stuck in my head. And that's what I used to kind of build the initial framework. Now, initially, I was just going to be a podcast production company, providing them with a good quality podcast. We gave them 3 pieces of content, and we were like, okay, there you go. There's your podcast. We'll load it up for you. Have a good time. Nothing happened. And my attorneys were just like, okay, like what from here? So I was like, well, what do I do? So that's where we came up with like doing more and making it more of an ecosystem that is building up around them versus just a marketing piece. We kind of put it at the center of what we're doing. So it was an idea. And then in December of 23, my then partner, we had a 5-year contract, decided not to renew. I was 5 months from my wedding. And I was like, what am I going to do? Now, I've always kind of bragged about this or said this about, I'm an entrepreneur. Take everything away from me, give me an internet and a laptop, and on Monday, I've got a new website and I've got a new company. So it was another chance to prove that humble brag. Okay, not humble, but it was another chance to prove it. So I got out my notebook. I started looking through all my ideas and all the things that I had been like just banking in my head, because I'm like a little bit of a business geek. I build businesses on paper for fun. Mm-hmm. And so it's, fantasy business league, maybe I'll start that, right? So like, so I had that idea and I was just like, this is what we're going with. And I think one of the things that has helped us take off in such a tremendous way is I have been extremely fortunate through the years that the people that I have worked with that have worked under me on teams, like they were just like, as soon as they found out I was on my own, they're like, some of them were with me over there. They're just like, they quit and just like waited the like little term that they couldn't come over. And they're like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? It was like one of my sales guys I've worked with for 22 years. My other guy I've known for 5 years. My VA that I started with, I've worked for 5 years. My guy who's the head of all of my like fulfillment and runs a team of about 35 people now. So half the company, he's worked with me for 7 years. So it was just kind of like I started, and then these people were like, oh, good, you're on your own again. Let's go. What are we doing? What's going on? And I was just like, oh, wow, like this might not be as hard as I thought. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very, very thankful for that I've had some tremendous people who've come over, and then some people that we recruited in. Like our main production person, Carrie, she did Stephen King's podcast. She did Michael Cohen's podcast. She was like, high up in like Spotify and iHeartMedia. And, because we all work from home, I am able to access a tremendous talent pool. And then when I meet those people and we start working together and we build and align our goals together, I've been able to get people way before than I should have had them on my team by me just saying, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm going. Here's what I can do now. Here's what I'll do when we get to that place. And they've all pretty much just said, all right, let's go. And again, I'm very thankful for that. But that's been probably the biggest impetus of why we've grown so quickly is we've just had awesome people who've joined the team well before I deserved it.
Have you ran into any mistakes or roadblocks in the last couple of years, especially growing so quickly that now that you can kind of see it in hindsight, you were like, I should have done it this way?
Yes. So I have always had typically had a business partner. I'm sales and marketing, like eat, sleep, breathe. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have no problem with that stuff. Mm-hmm. But you get into like fulfillment and the back office stuff. I've always had a partner that's done that. But what's happened is I build things that don't revolve around me. And I know that looks weird because I'm doing founder-led marketing. I'm on your podcast, but I try to build things in a way that don't require me to be there 60, 80 hours. Like I can still have a life. My time has a huge impact when I give it. I'm a very big believer in that. I think that shows in the way I've stacked this sort of like marketing concept. But what ended up happening is we grew so fast, the infrastructure for all of that, like in the beginning, we just kind of like, I'd pitch in and this person to pitch in and, this customer's not out and I deal with them. And like, we kind of thought like we're being scrappy, but what I should have done is gotten somebody. I actually just started a fractional COO this week that's helping run that side of the business that will either become full-time or help me find a full-time person within the next year or so. So that was a big mistake because what ended up happening is we were losing clients, not because we were doing a bad job, but because we weren't communicating well. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't have the bandwidth to properly communicate. Because to me, I'm like, hey, I told them how it works. I told them what it's going to do. We're doing what we said. We're doing it, but we just weren't having that like relationship that you really need on the back end. Mm-hmm. And once we got to a certain point, we kind of broke. And everybody knows like when you have a business, it like breaks and then you got to fix it. And then it breaks and you got to fix it. So I think because we spent a little longer around the 200 mark, that we would get 203 and then 192. And then, we would, just like back. Now we're like jumped up over at like closer to 220, 225. I'm hoping we've kind of gotten to that next level, but I really wish I would have found somebody that was higher level to take that side of the business that I could trust. But the problem was every person that I had ever trusted, I had shared equity with and then put myself in a vulnerable situation and basically was so successful at my own part of the company that I was no longer needed. So they wrote me out of the will, some ethically, some unethically. And so it was just like the pendulum swing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not having a partner. Yeah, fine. Don't have a partner, but you still need an operations person. And I was just like, I'll just figure it out. Like I'm a smart guy. And yet here I go to attorneys and I'm like, don't act like you could do my job just because you're smart. Like I'm smart. I could have done your job if I went to college too, but I've done this 30 years. You might know more than me about law, but I know a lot than a lot of you about marketing. So, like that's always been my mind frame, but yet, it's like what are the cobbler's kids' shoes? You remember that? Yep. That illustration. It was just like, here I was telling everybody that, here's how your shoes need to go. And yet I didn't heed my own advice. And that definitely put me behind a little bit.
Such a common thing though. I see it in my own business too, right? Like with myself, like I'll grow and then it's like, well, I haven't either hired correctly or delegated correctly in some way. And so it breaks, right? Like, okay, well then we lose a couple of clients because for whatever reason, either something fell through the cracks or I wasn't fulfilling on something
enough.
Yeah. Like something was not fulfilled in the way that either I or the client thinks that it should be. So you lose a client and then you gain a couple, and it's like this back and forth. And then you break through, you fix whatever the problem was. You're like, oh, smooth sailing. I just
until you break again.
Exactly. Until you get to that next thing. And then it's like, crap, there's just more problems. But that's just, the bigger, it never stops. So you just face new problems in different times. But it's a really important thing, I think, for everyone you always have to be evolving your business. Like you can't ever just kind of set it and forget it if you're going to grow.
Here was my brilliant idea, which by the way didn't work, which was I'm going to have 8 directors. I have a director of production, which is Carrie that I talk about. I have my director of fulfillment, which is Saad, who runs the team of 35. I have my director of client services, which is Cassie. I have my director of internal marketing, which is Rochelle. I have my, so going across all the whatever. So I thought, they know what they're doing. They'll run their thing. And then I just kind of like puppet master over the top and like keep it going. But what happened was there's little pockets and corners of my business that are like black boxes to me. I'm like, what's going on? I can't quite why is my okay, if we only lost 2 clients and I sold 20, why do we only have a net 4? Like it was just, you know what I mean? So like not having that person skilled at being at the top over things that I'm not skilled at being at the top. That was, that was just a huge problem for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that, and I had people that I thought I was cultivating into that, but they didn't have the background. And so it's like, I would go in and I would like just shoulder to shoulder with them. And that worked in most aspects of the company. But then when we would get to an aspect where it didn't work, I'd just be kind of like, okay, what now? Like, do I just like go take 5 how to build a client services courses over the next month and like crash course, like, you know what I mean? Like, how do I fix this? Whereas if I'd have had somebody now, like I do, who's just stepped in, a lady named Beth, who has, just as many years of experience on the other side of the company than I typically work on, which is again, marketing and sales. And she's taken several agencies from like 3 to 30 million, from like 20 to 100, and I kind of have a certain goal of getting this to about 2,500 clients, 25 million a year. Because I want to keep it private. I want to keep it, in-house. I'm not trying to, build it up, sell it off and just right off into the wind. I'd like something that has a consistent net revenue yearly that me and my family can live off of, that I can kind of know what's going on with it, be a part of it, but it kind of sustains and grows itself. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that you mentioned was how you had partners and then that either goes bad or you part ways in some way. If somebody is thinking about partnering with somebody on a business, what advice do you have for them that they should do ahead of time before deciding if they should go into business with somebody or not?
I love this question. So think about this. We spend, and I know there's different kind of whirlwind romances or whatever, but my wife, we met January 10th of 2022. By December 19th of 2022, we were here on this island. We just took off. We got married on April 4, 2024, because it was palindrome and other reasons we'll leave alone. And so we spend conservatively months, typically years, deciding if we want to live in the same house as a person and share our finances. But we'll go to one lunch and decide I'm going to start a business, which usually means more time, more emotion, more back and forth interaction, more than even your personal partner in some seasons. We'll spend way less time picking that business partner. So I like to use a term that I say, date your partner before you marry them. Mm-hmm. And that's simply, and there's 2 ways to do that. One is a series of just meet and greets and go do places, maybe do a weekend together, your families, just really get to know them on a personal level. But one thing I've suggested, and that I would probably do the next time, is I would create kind of like a business sort of like project that you do together, but it's like a bolt-on thing so that if it works, it can be a foundation into what you're going to do together. If it doesn't work, it can bolt back into your own businesses to where you don't waste time. So almost like a project together, build something together for 3 months, 6 months, and see what happens. Like when the money isn't there, like what kind of things do they do? They kind of like, and I mean, you don't really do this anymore, but like back in the day, are they like kiting checks to make payroll? Or, you know what I mean? Like, is that a pejorative term? I don't even know what that means. I mean, I know what it means, but I don't know the root of it.
Where it came from, I know.
Yeah. So I apologize in advance if that means something I don't know what it means.
Please don't cancel it.
Yeah. So, but like, if you see them doing things that you're just like, oh, then you know, okay, project's done, 6 months down the road. Hey, it was nice working with you. I don't think this is really going to work. I take my part, you take your part, we bolt this out, and hey, have a good life. Better that than 6-8 months down the road, you're all in with this person and you realize they're unethical, or you realize that, whatever. So that's what I would suggest. Having been ripped off conservatively, personal income, $5 to $7 million in my career, conservatively. That's what I would suggest is find a way to date a business partner, whether it's socially, but really try to get a project together and run its course and see what happens.
What red flags do you look for now? If you were going to go into business with somebody, is there any red flags up front that you would just be like, that you can see, in the first 30 days?
How they treat people that we are engaging with. Like, how do they treat servers at a restaurant? Are they generous? Are they kind? How do they talk about their family? How do they talk about their wife? Like if we go to Vegas, are they like, oh, dude, let's get a prostitute? I'm gonna be like, yeah, you're not my vibe, dude. So I think and I know these are more almost moral things, but you have to like your business partner. Like people say, I don't gotta like them. We just got to make money together. Yeah, that's like saying you don't got to like your wife. We just got to live in a house together. Like there's a lot more to it. So I would say that's one red flag. I would say another red flag is look at the cycles that you can tell through their career. What is their career cycles? Honestly, my career cycle kind of looks bad because I'm like, oh, I had this partner and they ripped me off, and I had this partner and they ripped me off. So I don't even know that I'd partner with me, and I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but look at the patterns.
I'll be able to rip him off. He's a good person to go in.
Yeah, but and unfortunately, you know what I mean? Maybe that's been the thing, but and I'll tell you this, my very first, and this was in my early 20s, and this is my own fault. My father came to me and he said, I don't think you should partner up with this guy. Now, I was this white, conservative, independent, fundamental Baptist preacher. I didn't listen to anything but church music. I didn't have a TV in my home. My wife didn't wear anything but skirts. I was street preacher, knocked on doors. I was as straight down the line, narrow. I didn't try a drop of alcohol till I was 36. That was my life. Life's very different now. We'll just leave it at that. This guy was had been in jail, recovering drug addict, black Pentecostal preacher. I wore khakis and a polo, and he wore snakeskin and a matching purple suit. And again, I have no, I grew up in the black community. That's a whole different story. To me, it wasn't about color. So to me, I was just I know this guy. We both did well at this company together. He got the financing. I'm going to come in and get the product, and we're going to take this thing off together. And my dad said to me, be careful with this guy. I said to myself, yeah, you're just an old man who's prejudiced. So don't be afraid to listen to the people around you that care about you and love you. Because I wouldn't have had that. I wouldn't have had that success if I wouldn't have worked with him. But I probably would have had some other success, because what happened with me and him when we kind of split off, I had started a second office of the company that he had talked me into. And then he the attorney told him, oh, he's now your competitor. He's breached the non-compete clause. You don't have to pay him his percentage of the company. Now I had my sister, my brother-in-law, my cousin, all these people I had hired, people that were going to my church that were working for me. And then several $1,000s a week was pulled out of my account. And I ended up like kind of losing all those people and kind of, going through all of that. So that relationship, like I would have probably found success elsewhere. And I would have also not had to go through something that honestly, it took me another 4 or 5 years before I was ready to start hiring people because of having to let people go and like, seeing people sitting across from me, like, I thought you knew what you were doing. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm 24. Like I'm trying, like I thought I knew, but how could I know this, But so, yeah, I mean, I think that, ultimately we should be listening to those around us that care about us, expose these people to those people, because there's something to be said for those who really care about us. We can't always assume that, like, most people that love you and know you want the best for you. So if they say, hey, be careful, it's not because they're afraid you're going to be more successful than them, and they just don't want that, like for the most part, I would think.
Especially when it's people close to you, like what you just said, right? Like,
yeah, it was my dad. Like I should have listened to my dad, but you know how you are when you're like 24 and I'm already making like more money like a year than like he's ever even come close. You know what I mean? So like to me, I'm like, I got life beat. What are you telling me? Like I'm making $300, $400, $500 a year, and you've never made more than like 50. Like who are you?
We're all brilliant.
And again, that was the
20th.
arrogance of our youth sometimes. But I wish I would have listened to him.
So you mentioned a little bit ago that you have a very big plan for your current company. So what's your timeline to get that accomplished? You said 2,500?
Correct. I'd like to be there in 5 years. I feel like I could be.
Okay.
Yeah, that put me about 55. That's my goal. 5 years. My goal year 1 was to do 7 figures. We did. Year 2 to almost double. I think we did. We're coming on it. So, this next year is, I think if we can, especially with the additions and the things that we're really, really honing down on, which is really just our client services. And, it's just the figuring out the puzzle of how to get our clients help us help them. Show rates and response rates, and like, listen, I sent you all the copy before I put it out, and now you're calling me mad that this happened. Well, we couldn't have known that it was statute 4.34 instead of 4.37. Like we sent, so it's like all those little granular things, but we're really, really, really working so hard on right now to just create the right systems that catch those things ahead of time. And yeah, I mean, I think that we can definitely grow, especially as we keep expanding our offerings, because like, for example, although we have these channels, maybe not everybody that wants to be on my channel wants me to produce their show and do their content as well. So, I have to kind of come up with if they just want their show on our streaming network, how do we do that? Okay, how do I charge for that? Okay, if they just want us to help with professional podcast matching, because we have a bunch of professional shows and legal shows and professional guests and legal guests, if they just want that, what do I charge for that? Like, how do I make sure that I'm doing well with it, but it doesn't become another monolith within my company, that it still stays within the ecosystem properly? So that's the other thing, is just like making sure that I don't get runaway train stuff, because I don't have time for it. And I know I have a tendency to chase a pretty butterfly off into the forest. So, I think most of us do. And so when that pretty butterfly comes along, I have to just go, okay, butterfly, live your life. I'm already doing this thing. And so I think that's going to be the thing that keeps us balanced to grow to the point where we are. Because my goal is, there's kind of 2 things I've said. One, I'd like to kind of be known as the Henry Ford of professional content development. I'd like people to go like, yeah, back before that DM guy, we used to like spend 6 hours, 10 hours on our pod. Now I just show up every once in a while, do my thing. It's all done, and it's all boom out there, and it brings me clients, and it's great. So I want that. But I also want to become the source for people who want help locally. And instead of just Googling and going through hundreds, know that there's a place I can go. There's this channel where I can watch the podcasts and the videos of an attorney that's in my market that serves me specifically. I know that, there's this very niche attorney that works with just this very specific thing. And so I want to create these content ecosystems that become trusted by the end user, like YouTube, but it's all supported, not YouTube in its functionality, but a place to go, but it's all supported by the people who are a part of it. So it doesn't become that ugly, like, would you like to learn? And then all of a sudden it's like, come on down, get a burger at the, like, I want it to be, because our clients pay for the production and then we pay, and then we take and do all the distribution. So it's a very clean user experience. Even when you watch, like, I was listening to Spotify and I was like 4 minutes into a podcast and I'd heard like 4 ads. And I was like, I thought I had the Spotify thing. And they're like, oh, I think it was in their podcast that they were marketing. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, so I have to listen with this. Like I think with Netflix and things like that, we've become accustomed to not doing it. And yet podcasting, which is supposed to be the most trusted form of marketing now, is still depending on an old world way of monetizing, which is disruptive, interruptive marketing. I want to create kind of the system that creates content in a way that is clean for people to enjoy and trust and know that it's a good source and learn about people so that they can find their professional that fits them, so that when it's time, they go, oh, you were already my lawyer. I was just wanting to come meet you. Oh, you were already my physical therapist. I just needed to come meet you. Like, that's what I'm trying to cultivate.
So as you continue to grow, and obviously the legal podcast is kind of the majority of it, but you mentioned earlier what was the other kind of
the Authority podcast network? Yeah.
So will that be anybody and everybody that doesn't fall into legal?
For now, yes. I own the Medical Podcast Network URL and the Professional Podcast Network URL and the Expert Podcast URL. So what I'm trying to do is kind of create a playground to see if there is a breakaway. If we find out that 60% is in the medical field, because that's what's going on, or 60% is in real estate related, then we can kind of break off that piece. The most natural piece probably is going to be what I'm going to call the expert. And so experts will be focused locally. Authorities will be focused nationally and internationally. So the Authority Podcast Network eventually, I think, will be like coaches, consultants, specialty, like people fly in from all over the world to go to my clinic because I'm good at this, whatever it is. I'm the authority versus your local real estate expert, your local your local mortgage expert, your local, whatever it is. So that's kind of what I see in my head. But I do have these like places where if medical takes off, if this, like I have a pocket to kind of build it, which is what I did with this thing. I was just like, I'm building legal. I'm not targeting anybody else, but now I have, like I said, I don't know, 6, 7, 10 shows that, like, one lady's pure real estate. One guy, he teaches parents to get their kids ready to be recruited for college baseball. Like, I'm flipping through my channel. I'm like, how do we get a show about this? But I'm like, okay, like this just shows me that there's a need beyond just legal for a way to produce content that then isn't just produced, but it's distributed, it is marketed, it goes into an ecosystem, so it does more. And all we're asking you to do is just come in and do what you do all the time, which is talk about what you do. We're just going to ask very specific questions in a comfortable way.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I find your whole business model very interesting, and just the way that you've progressed it into kind of what the world and the audience wants now. Like we've moved away from so many different types of marketing that were, what you could do in the past, but now it's all about building trust with people. And that's really when your wife was like, you're already my doctor, it's because she trusted him, right? Like that was, he had already built that before they'd even met. And
exactly. And that's the way people do it now. We just we're just not quite yet acknowledging it. And this is what I said about the internet back when. I said, the internet's never going to get bigger until it gets smaller. Because it was just like in the beginning, the internet was so cool because you could talk to somebody in Japan about Pokemon cards. But the internet never really got big until Google and Facebook. And then it became part of our everyday lives. And sure, we could connect with people far and wide, but it wasn't until we really started being able to granularly connect with the person next door. And let's just like, we're 3.5 generations into digital connection. Like, we are no longer seeking connect. Like, my daughters, all my kids, but like, I remember my daughter, like, she had a friend in Denver, and I'm like, have you met this friend? She's like, no, but I'm going to go up and visit. I'm like, well, she's like, well, I've talked to her mom on the phone. And I'm just like, that made no sense to me, but it's very natural. But who am I to judge? I told you that guy that's on my team for 22 years, I've met him one time. I have 65 people in my company, and if I've met 5 of them, I'd be surprised. And many of them I've worked with multiple years. Matter of fact, in 2 weeks, Rochelle which is my marketing. We're going to do some marketing together. She's going to fly down here to the island. We're going to spend a few days together. She'll hang out with me and my wife. We're doing some boating with some friends, and then we're doing some photo shoots for some planned content and blah, blah, blah. But like, never met her before, but like, we're buddies, right? So like, we are used to digital connections, and people don't trust logos anymore. People buy from people, right? So all I'm trying to do is just update what we already know to be facts into the modern system that we have in a way that is low friction for the businesses because they're not accustomed to it, that is high touch for the people that want to work with these people because there'll be plenty of content going out, and it's real content. It's not, I just got elected by super lawyers again and I only had to pay $3,500. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not disingenuous marketing. It's genuine connection through podcasting, through answering questions, through assuaging fears, through providing clarity. And this builds, I talk about, it compounds trust over time. And so we get into people's lives. It's a privilege. So if we're going to get into these people's lives as business owners, we need to do it in a way that is about them and not us. And if we do that, they're going to receive it. And it's just natural when it comes time to want to then go the route of working with the person that they know.
Okay, I have one last question that's, I feel like a big one compared to what you just said, because we are now in an AI world where you can't necessarily trust videos, right? Like, how will we know if the video that we are watching is actually the person that we think we're watching?
Well, there's a few ways. I mean, we could get into granular now, you know, for example, look at the hands and blah, blah, blah. But over time, they'll figure that out. I think that is why it is so important over the next 2 to 3 years for people to build authentic brands around founder-led marketing. I think that's why it will be important, because then it'll be, and I honestly think there's going to be 2 ways eventually. This is like just kind of an opinion I have. I think 1, there's going to come a marketplace like Etsy, but for content. So 2, I think there's going to be a certification or a signal that we can do. So one of the things I've noticed about like written content is most people now purposefully allow a typographical or a grammatical error to remain in their content. And I think that is because we're signaling humanity. So I think there's going to be, you could call it a Morse code. It'll be, like, I like to do this. I like to go like, look, 5 fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look, it doesn't change. Like right now, AI can't match that. Like, it's going to take years before it can do that. So like things like that. The other thing is, zoom in on my eyes. You can see my irises. I'll look over here. And if you're looking at my irises, you'll see them expand and contract, and you'll see the flex in my eyes if you just come in. Like AI can't do that either yet. So there's those things that we can do currently, but long term, it'll be about either some sort of way for the marketplace, because like already, Facebook will say there are some elements of this video that are telling me there's AI in it. Mm-hmm. So I think people are going to start demanding that, just like anything else. It's going to be just like additives in our food. We're going to be like, this needs to be labeled. And so, that's what I think has to and will happen. Because anytime that anything artificial comes in, we still need a way to tell natural. Mm-hmm. And it is in the content creators and the content providers like Facebook's, whatever, to provide what people want. Like it's in their best interest. Mm-hmm. And so like if I go to Facebook and like Facebook fell off for a while, why? Because they just let so much junk in there and it's like, you just, and then it kind of, like I live on an island. I wasn't on Facebook for like 10 years, but living on an island with old people, you got to have Facebook or you don't know what's going on. But like there is going to be signaling. One of the things I do on my my LinkedIn posts, and I don't do it as often as I should. I got into the habit and I kind of got out of the habit, is when I go in, so we have all of our content for me is created out of videos that either I'm doing internal trainings, I'm on podcasts, I send to my team, hey, I want to do a series on this, blah, blah, blah. And they put it together, little AI, and plus I have a final copywriter, I have a final marketer, and they kind of go through it and they know my voice and blah, blah, blah. So I'd say, or just videos where they take and crop off of this. So that's super easy. But probably 3 to 5 times a week, I'll just jump on LinkedIn myself and do my own post. And at the bottom, put a little asterisk and I say, this post is certified organic. Didn't even use Grammarly. Hope you enjoy. And so I and people start saying, I love it when you do that certified organic, because then I know it's all you, but I know you personally wrote it because you put that at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So I think that the people who are smart will find ways to Morse code their humanity, whether it be through, like I said, some sort of system I think will eventually have to be here, or just kind of figuring out like what isn't real, what is real.
Well, thank you for that. I think this is going to be something that's obviously evolving over the next forever. Probably. I don't see AI going anywhere, where we're just always going to have to stay ahead of it to make sure that we know what is AI and what is not. But
think about this. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like when Photoshop came out, like we all believed the picture. Here's the picture, and now we're like, yeah, that's photoshopped.
Yeah. That's true. It becomes...
No matter what, we're still smarter than these things. Mm-hmm. Now, they may be able to amass more information and collate it better than we are. But as far as critical thinking, and we're still like unmatched. And I read something, and I don't want to like give the number, but it was like, in order to have the computing power of one human brain, like we're so far away from even being able to accomplish that. Like it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So like I don't think we're going to lose to the machines anytime soon, or at least those of us who are smart enough and care enough not to lose to the machines.
That's a good point. Well, thank you so much for this really entertaining and very informational interview. It was great talking to you. If somebody wants to work with you, what would be the best way to reach out?
Probably just go to my website. If you're listening, if you're watching, I'm pointing at it. I think it should be backwards when we have this, but thelegalpodcastnetwork.com. If you're not legal, I will have very soon at the bottom where it'll say, go click here to go to the Authority Podcast Network, and then we'll keep layering those in on our site. If you want to connect with me personally, or even just like, hey, I got a question for you, you said this, whatever, like LinkedIn is where it's my digital playground. It's what I call my digital language, which is a whole different thing that I love to talk about, but it's where I hang out. And so inbox me, connect with me. If you are genuinely trying to get a hold of me and you're not just trying to sell me something, my team will make sure I get it if I miss it. So if you are just like, I had a guy today, I just want to meet with him and see if we can synergize. And my teammate was like, what do you mean by synergize? I just want to see if there's some synergy between us. Okay, but why? Like, what specifically do you want to meet with him about? Just if there's synergy, So don't come to me and ask if we can have synergy, because you're going to probably get filtered out. But if you're just like, hey, I listened to this podcast, had a question for you about this, I'm going to jump in and be like, yeah, Susan, this is the way I think about it, blah, blah, blah. Actually, I got another podcast I did on that. Let me throw it. Or here's a little clip. You don't have to listen to a whole hour of me, but, here's 3 minutes, and maybe you can put up with that. So, happy to be of help if I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you, DM. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I wish you all the best in accomplishing your goals.
As well for you, Jen. Thank you.